Hey man, good to have you. We're going to go and break down your backside 360. Since this is the first video I'm doing for you, going to go and get extra detail, extra in depth, make sure we're not missing anything. The good news is, before we start this, is there's a lot to like about your technique, and I can see you've been studying, I can see that you've been working at it, because especially some of these backside 360s towards the end hit a lot of really fantastic principles. That said, there's a couple mistakes that you're making that are making this way harder than it needs to necessarily be. So let's go and first talk about what we're seeing on this jump, and we'll just go through each one of the clips and then end on the side-by-side comparison where we'll go and get more in depth. So here, the big issue is your setup carve. I know this jump has a hard approach, but see how angled your board is? This is making it so your upper body's closed off. So you got a lot of countering forces here. A good rule is you don't want your board to be more angled than it has to be at any point on a backside spin. So like this would be really tough to like set up carve out of, right? You're getting a lot of sideways momentum. So we really want to be coming in with a lot lighter of an edge angle on that edge a lot sooner so we can do a much more mellow transition. Because what we're seeing here really consistently is when you switch to your toe edge, look at how much distance your board is traveling. Doop, doop, doop. Traveling all the way across, and that's making it so when you enter your toe side position, a couple things happen. First things first, it's not going to be a good platform to like stand up, and you're having a lot of bend in your legs. Bend of the legs inherently isn't too much of a problem on a backside spin, but when you have this much bend in your legs, it's going to make it so this upper body hinge is now setting your weight all the way over here. So combining the bend in the legs with the super dramatic angle, you're now in this really leaned over position. So when you try to set your rotation, look at how far away your body is from the center of your snowboard. The other issue that we see consistently is for here, you're overextending your back leg and you're crunching too much towards your front leg. So your axis of rotation is too much set over your front foot. So you do a really good job of like pulling your body through here, but we can see that because you're going in and having your rotation set over that front foot, as you go and come through, it's actually shifting your weight to your heels because you're not able to like channel it through this way. Instead, you're like sort of elongating, going under the shoulder, just too over the front foot. And that's why you're in this position right here. And we can see your weight's really set over the heels. And this is where the like sort of falling sensation comes from and why you don't feel like you can just get control and keep pulling into it because your axis of rotation and upper body hinge should be like over here. So that way your weight's over here instead of having your weight like all the way over this way. So those are the main issues I'm noticing. Your actual body positioning, head positioning, and like setup carve for timing is really good. Here we can see again, too much bend in the legs, weight too far away from the snowboard, crunching too much towards the front foot, making it so your weight is now set really over your heels and you can't just commit and follow through on the rotation when that happens. This one, you're trying to go and do the more gradual angle, but notice how wide you're coming in from. If we go and play out that angle for like how it should actually go, it sort of needs to be like that, and you can see it's still really intense. So this would be way better if you were coming in like on this angle, slight, 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 up this way. The other reason why this is so problematic is if you're in this position, this closed off, in order to keep your head and everything positioned here, you actually have to be closing your front shoulder. So your front shoulder is actually closed away from the jump. So when you go and turn to your toe edge, you're now pulling your upper body this way. So you're getting this really aggressive upper body this way, upper body this way. And we can really see that sideways momentum from that really big angle. Look at how much your feet are drifting here. So that's why it's going to be so hard to stay balanced over your board. You're literally Tokyo drifting through that corner. Uh, your wind up position and everything's really good. And what I really like is your head timing and the fact that you are keeping a pretty good hinge, not extending your legs as much here. So like this head positioning for a backside 360 and how much you're throwing your arms is really solid. Good contact with the board the whole way. That's why I'm so impressed, even with like the stuff that's making this ridiculously harder than it needs to be. You're getting a really good rotation. But the way that you're flattening out to make it so your weight isn't over top is really going and straightening your body. See here how you're straight? This is making it so you can't really rotate through. When you have a straight back, it's going to be cutting you off. And if you try to like lead with the upper body, it's going to pull your weight more and more towards the heels of your snowboard. And that's what's happening here. You just need to go and stand too straight in order to go and correct that like size momentum and not be leaning forward. And that's just making it so as you rotate, your center balances over the heels, consistently the same thing we were seeing in the other videos. Uh, This one, a little bit lighter of a setup carve, not as much of an angle, but we're still seeing that drift. And that's because you're not going and getting your upper body into it. You can still see your board's really angled. So same story. And as you pop up, you're going keeping more hinge over there, but notice how straight you are on the legs and the body. So as you go and rotate, you're still very centered. Well, not quite as much over the heels on this one, and that's probably why it comes around a little nicer, but still not quite. All right, now we're into the side by side, so that's sort of just a rundown. And now we'll go and compare these two to see what we can change. Just to note, this backside 360 I do on the right isn't as good as you could do it, and I actually am doing some things that are a bit of a mistake that I won't be doing this year because I'm still learning. But first, let's look at these postures. Notice how as you're coming in on your heel edge, you're going and standing up really tall still. So your upper body set here. This is sort of the same upper body angle that you've been rotating your spins on. Compared to me, I'm keeping my upper body super hinged. I guess we should just play this quick. I know, super hard to watch, so I'll play it back really slow motion and just talk about it, and then we'll go and get into a deeper breakdown just so we know what's coming. So upper body more hinged, more gradual angle on the heel edge. Uh, this one you do a pretty good job of holding your hips, but we can see not as good as me because I'm able to have my head pointing more towards the left side corner of the jump. Then as I transition edges, very small motion, very small setup carve, getting onto that toe edge, and a little more natural for the windup. Though your windup position here is pretty good. The only thing I'll add is the hips look pretty squared off compared to mine. This is going to have to do with your in run. When we go and correct that, it's going to make it so you can get more open hips. More open hips increases the range of motion, making the timing way easier. And then as you go and throw the spin, look at your arms. See how they sort of like crunch inward, then lift up? So we're sort of doing a bit of an up and down motion, where my front arm's a little bit low here, but see how I just channel it through consistently? And then when we look at the actual like takeoff angles, you can see that I'm a little crunched to the front foot. It's fine to be a little crunched to the front foot, but I have a little bit of stagger. I have a bit of bend in my legs. More bend in the legs increases the range of motion, and my upper body is much more hinged over the balls of my feet. And the main one, I'm keeping this upper body hinge with maintaining my weight set over those balls of the feet. Where if we go and look at your form here, you're sort of like leaning forward this way. So you're not going to be able to channel energy all the way through on this angle because that's going to throw you downward into the snow. So your throw right now is sort of going from like down, up, so down, yeah, down and then just sort of up, trying to elongate it instead of throwing through consistently. Then your head movement and how you're channeling that is actually really good. You just don't have the upper body positioning needed in order to like get it as rotated clean. Like see right here, this is a really big difference. Notice how my upper body's hinged forward all the way over my snowboard where you're completely straight back. Okay, let's go and talk about how we can fix this now. So first thing I want you to do is when you're doing your heel side carve, pull your upper body more over. You want your upper body in the same position on your heel edge as it will be on your toe edge. And we want a lot of angle here because that's going to set a rotational force. I also want you to slightly shift your hips towards this back foot. What this does is it opens up your range of motion, making it a lot easier to open your hips. And it's also going to make it so you're less likely to throw over your front foot. Because what happens is when you open your upper body, not in association to your hips opening, it's going to make it so as you rotate this way, it puts more and more weight onto that front foot. And the other thing we can notice here is your in run is actually set over front foot at this point. Shoulder squared, not really opened up. If we compare that to mine, you can see him getting that chest open. So I'll go and do a little body demonstration of how you can train this at home at the end of the video here. But we're going to want to really fix this, and I honestly think if we fix your heel side approach here, it's probably going to fix 90% of the problems. Everything else that we're going to fix has to be with how you're extending. So you're really going and lifting yourself upwards. The issue with this is you're fully extending your torso. So I want you, when you're doing backside 360s, to focus less on extending up and popping. When popping's good and stuff, the most important thing is just maintaining this hinge and then trying to rotate for that clean plane. Where because you're adding so much up motion, it's going to make it really hard to time and control. So save the extra pop, the extra height. It's not really doing much for you, and it's making this a lot harder. And I think you probably should practice sinking your hips a little bit more back and pulling your upper body forward. So see here how my set towards my back foot. This makes it so as I sink my hips back this way, my butt's a bit more over here, upper body's a bit more hinged. And this is just giving me a much nicer platform to rotate off of versus this fully closed position. This closed position, when you open, it's going to really pull you down. And that's what we're seeing happen here. You're coming up, lining up, pulling down, throwing on this super slanted angle, and that's why it's sort of being funk and your rotation set over your heels. This is like the reason why it's unbalanced. We've been talking about it, but this position right here just has your center weight, not nearly enough towards the toes versus right here. All right, I'm sorry for the mess, but uh, it is what it is. So right now on your approach, you're sort of like way too much forward angle this way, squared like this, and then when you try to transition, you're doing a big motion. What I want you to practice right now is trying to get into your heel side position, chest open, hips open by sinking to that back foot. Let me slow down. Find this. Okay, no, I'll just explain the motion and then I'll slow it down. So, like this, sunk towards the back hip, hips open, and that way when I go and switch to my toe edge, I can just stand up in it. So instead of needing to like lean forward, I can literally just extend, and now my weight's over the toe edge. Backside 360, a bit more hinge here, but more out here. And this just gives me a way better rotation point. See how my hips are open, chest open, and now as I rotate, I can rotate through here. What you're really doing is expanding up like this, what's okay sometimes, but then you're going like this, and that's what's shifting your weight to your heels. So, how do we train this? First, stacked neutral position, base to get from, not actually important. A cool key rule is you want to be on your heel edge as soon as possible because the sooner you're on your heel edge, setting your angle, the more you can mellow it out. And we want a way smaller heel side angle. The heel side angle is just to get the hips open. So instead of trying to go and position your whole board this way, instead shift your weight slightly towards that back leg. Should feel like you can just like sort of lift this leg up here. An important note is we're not shifting it by tilting our upper body to this stage. Instead, neutral stack position, hips back. That's good. Once that's good, practice going and sinking into it, twisting the hips, trying to get the hips open so you can just casually go here. Sort of like pulling this knee in. See how that's pulling in? So I'm not actually trying to clasp it, but just try and take this and rotate it through. Then your hands should come towards the front leg here. This is just going to ensure that you're open and you're not cheating it. And when you're in this position, you're going to feel your weight on the balls of your feet. So now we want to kick our hips back, 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 back towards that back leg, all the way until we feel our weight on our heels. Now we're in our heel side setup position. Now as we transition to our toe edge, all we do is stand up a little bit, and as we stand up, push our hips back forward. Now we're in that casual toe edge position, keeping the same hinge the whole way. From here, since our arms were already over here, you don't need to hold them here, but generally over here, then you can just lift them up. This removes that wind up motion, what's going to be really hard to control. So now I just lift them up. And when as I'm throwing, I want to make sure that I'm not going and lifting my chest too much. Instead, I'm maintaining the same hinge, throwing through it consistently. Boom, leaving like you were leaving. And then practice, upper body hinged over. Try and keep that rotation over the balls of the feet. So recap, heel edge position, sink down into it, stand up by pushing the hips back forward, arms out, and as you rotate, keep your weight over the balls of your feet. And we do this by keeping that upper body hinge. So, boop, see how hinged I am over there? This makes it so I can actually use that principle that you are so good at of pulling the rotation through. Because if you're too straight like this, and you try to use that, beep, doesn't really work. So, with that all said and done, let's go and look at this clip one more time. Okay, so see, squatted position, upper body forward, hips and everything over here, slight turn angle, transitioning to the toe edge, a little bit of leaning's okay, but mostly by try and push into that legs, push the hips back forward lean position, wound up, good range of motion of the hips. Then as I snap, I'm making sure to not lift my upper body, just throwing through that angle. So I take off in the same upper body hinge. Now I pull the body around. And from here, you know what to do. All of your mechanics are working. It's just the fact that it's too set over the heels here. So main takeaway, narrow that setup carve, get your hips more open, get your weight preemptively set to your back foot, and just remember, we want to try keep the most similar position to our air position through every stage. So when you're on your heel edge, try to be in the same position you want to be in the air in. When you're in toe edge, same thing. We should be keeping the same upper body hinge the whole way. And if you can narrow on that setup carve, get those hips more open, weight shifted slightly more to the back hip, that should solve all the problems. As long as you don't over pop and extend out of it, because we need that upper body hinge on a backside 360. A backside 720 and stuff, we can get away with a bit more extension, but a backside 360, not much range of motion. So you want to keep this motion pretty tight. And remember, as long as you keep your upper body set over the balls of your feet, this rotation's ridiculously easy to get around. Because you're set here, it feels a lot harder and it's going to not let you channel your energy through. But as soon as we get your upper body tilted here and your axis rotation point at the toe edge, life's going to be good. So yeah, there's your first video analysis of hopefully many to come. And it's good to have you. Let me know if you have any questions or need any more advice.